Surprise, surprise, surprise. My name is Lana Labonte, and if this is the first time you've ever come into my living room and you're on my channel, I am here to support, uplift, inspire, and hopefully that empowers you to be the best version of you you are meant to be. How about that? Because we are all infinite possibilities, potentiality. So, here we go. No matter what is going on around you, it's all you. Now, that's pretty deep in itself. I was listening to a video by Simplicity Revealed, Julia, this morning on my way to the gym. And as I was listening to her reflections and revelations, this is what popped in for me is no matter what's going on in your world, whatever is going on around you, it is all you. It's a reflection of our inner world. And so here we are, all humans, all these souls running around these flesh suits, having human experiences. We got lots of tools, but we got lots of traumas. And we're not quite aware of how things are running the show. A lot of times we're unconscious of what is really going on in our lives. So as a result, here we are trying to make sense of nonsense, trying to heal unmet, unresolved childhood traumas and needs that were never fulfilled, never met. So I like to say it's kind of the comedy, the divine comedy of life. We're a bunch of monkeys running around flinging our shit at one another. It's your fault. It's your fault. You didn't, whatever. Whatever it is. All of our shit shows. And literally, it's a shit show. This crazy life is one big virtual reality. It is one big theater. And interestingly, so we speak on how are you the extra in another person's life, or are you the main attraction, the main star of your own life? And you can often say, well, I'm the star of my own show. I think of myself. But just consider how often and how easily you are distracted. Distraction takes you out of being the main character. Distraction makes you the extra in whatever it is that gets your attention. Get it? Distract. It's action. So when you get consumed by the media, it consumes you. It's an energetic looshing. It is an energetic exchange. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the drama out there or the trauma in there? Think about that. This is all our trauma. Whoo, theater on stage. We're all acting it out. We're not necessarily owning it. It's owning us. Whew. How does that sound? How does that resonate? Does that strike a chord in you? Literally. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. So when we use these terms like, did it strike a chord in you? There's relevance. There's a reference to how we are harmonic beings, that our frequency determines our experience, our energy, our vibration, our taking personal responsibility for our own self means being in awareness of our thoughts. Am I here now in the present, or am I getting hijacked into the past and using that past to project the future? In either case, you're not here if you're out there. If you're up in here too much, you're not really here. And this is such a short little drop from the head to the heart. The key is in feeling, because in the feeling, it will be revealed to you what is still unhealed and requires your attention and work to do. It's easy to say, okay, the triggers out there. this one did this to me, that one did that, blah, blah, blah. You know, we all have a story. And it's not to say your story's any better or any worse, that it's not relevant or that you don't have righteous anger around your traumas. There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of the healing process. That's part of the cycle that we all of us, again, nobody is any better or any worse. Nobody has suffered more or less. You cannot compare one to another. If in the comparison, you lose the valuable lesson. You lose yourself. You give the power away to another. That when we're comparing ourselves to the outside world and wondering, why don't I have that? I want that. Nobody said you couldn't have that. But see, this goes back to the 7 deadly sins, which I was having a conversation with a girlfriend the other day. I'm like, when you look around the world today, the things that are playing out are all of those sins. The greed, the loathing. I wrote this down because I did this in the last video. I spoke about envy is one of the biggest ones. Pride. Oh my gosh, did I not see Pride Month? And in the very center, if you write this out, because it's Pride Month, pride. Pride is one of the deadly sins, the 7 sins. Pride Month. When you look at it, you get the D-E-M-O-N. All you got to do is look. Everything is revealed and in your face. It's right in front of you. Nothing is being... Actually, the distractions are what keep you from noticing what's in front of you. Why? Because you don't want to see what is in front of you. Most people don't want to be in the present. They're already chasing the next high, the next experience, rushing to the next thing because they're not able to be here now in this. And that's how we get so easily caught off guard. Because again, we're not present. We're caught up reliving the past and then having that relived out in the moment as we're projecting into the future. It's some crazy voodoo magic, but it is part of the voodoo. We are magic, and we do have sparkle and we have shine, but it's up to us to reclaim that. Because I personally believe, and when we say magic, I'm not talking like hocus pocus. I'm not talking witches and goblins and stuff like that. I do believe that we are being tested right now to what we do believe and how much fear still resides within us, and whether we will face that fear and rise, or we will allow it to overtake us and compromise our authenticity, our integrity, our true soul self. Souls are sold out of fear. And the 7 deadly sins, again, we will comprise them of envy, pride, greed, wrath, lust, gluttony, and sloth. Look at the world around you right now. Sloth, laziness, not taking care of the temple that you are housed in. Gluttony, overconsumption, and not just in the form of food. It's also the 5 senses. Gluttony comes in through the 5 senses, through the eyes, through the nose, through the mouth, through the ears, overstimulated. It's overindulgence. Things like pornography, which is satanic, actually. I just read, oh my gosh, today. Oh my gosh, that was my mama's laugh. Anyway, I was perusing Twitter and reviewing some stuff, and there was a thread that I found fascinating, and it goes back to the whole history of drag. And I was like, what? It actually, and it's probably not just one culture, cults of personalities, just saying, but it goes back to the Japanese. And I was just, there's a lot to it, and I can't regurgitate every little detail. But when it boils down to it, it is actually ritualistic and satanic in nature. And I was like, oof. You know, the biggest lie perpetrated is that Satan didn't exist, but guess what? We are in the den. So, whether you're religious or not, you can't not see it. And on the same breath I say that, it's up to us to own that piece of us within, because we all have our demons. This isn't here to shun. I'm not here to say you should shun this or shun that, but you need to resonate with what is true for you. Because when we don't speak up and don't speak our truth, and we get silenced, and that means the many, not just an individual or a small group. When a small group outweighs the majority, meaning they rule, then guess who loses out? The majority. We have a huge power imbalance right now in the world. But see, that's where we have to reclaim our own power. I can go down so many rabbit holes with this today because I literally sat on the beach, and today was my beach day. I love to spend my time in nature. It was a beautiful clear sky, blue, a normal day, and I did see a couple chemtrails that sprayed, and then I didn't see anything for a while, and then came sunset, and all of a sudden these clouds. I'm like, where the heck did they come from? Because they weren't there. Oof. My military brain over here going, this just doesn't make sense. These clouds aren't normal, just saying. And then I was realizing, because there was a point when I went out in the water and I could see some clouds off in the distance, and I'm like, huh. And then they disappeared off in the distance. They didn't go anywhere. They just went poof, gone. And so, like, it's these things. How aware are you of your surrounding? Do you pay attention to nature? I have always been the kid with the head up in the sky. I've been up in the trees. I've been paying attention to the birds and the songs and just all the critters. I am a child of nature, and many of us are. The question is how attuned and aware are you of your surroundings? See, when I travel, and because I lived abroad, and I absolutely love to people watch. People fascinate me, and I like to witness and see the patterns and behavior. It's almost like this it's my own personal little, what's the word? It's like a hobby. It's like it's a gift I have too, because I have a lot of friends who come to me and say, Lana, how do you see these things? How are you recognizing these flags? And like, a lot of times people will come to me and ask these questions of me, and I'm like, it's because I have a lot of life experience. And because I spot it, I got it, meaning I don't let it own me. And so it's really easy for me to recognize it in other people. Now, I'm not saying my shit doesn't show, and that every once in a while there's something there for me to grow and to learn and to heal from or to be better at, because this is what life is about. When you know better, you do better. But I see things that astound me that other people don't see. But that's just a gift I have because of my past, my experiences, my background, and doing the work. Because one thing I will tell you, I don't care what modalities, what healing experiences you've had. There is one thing that will ring true for each and every one of you, and myself included. Again, I speak from personal experience. You may have a toolbox full of all sorts of different things you can do. Breath work, meditation, yoga, exercise, fitness, writing, singing, playing an instrument, art. There's infinite possibilities in how you channel and harness your energy and recognize ways to heal and keep yourself focused in the moment. Meditation is simply single-minded focus. It's being present right here and trained to keep your focus. It's not just always sitting down and trying to figure out your head. And it's not all silence, and it's not all rainbows and unicorns, and it's not all love and light. There's the dark shit too, because that's all a part of you. And so the reason I say, we constantly have to be discerning and mindful of everything, and especially ourselves. There are two things that will test the patience and put all of your love and light on display. I'm going to speak for me. Mosquitoes, can't stand them. And the other one, traffic, driving. I catch myself and I talk to myself. I'm like, yeah, slow down. I mean, my mind. Be patient, compassionate, because whatever it is you're impatient and don't have the compassion for others is really just you, towards you. So no matter what we think is really happening outside of ourselves, it really still comes right back to us. Remember, loaded gun. When you point a finger, careful about pulling that trigger, because you got 3 right back at you. Your past, your present, and your future. When in the past have you been like that? When in the present, maybe you're right there with them. In the future, you might do it again. These are like little nuggets that over the years, my girlfriend pointed out this years ago about like a loaded gun. When you point a finger, you got 3 back at you. I'm like, oh. And then I expanded upon that and said, yeah, it's your past, your present, your future. You have been capable of doing it at some point in your life. We all are. So going back to being the star of your own show and getting distracted in the circus of the world, because again, everything's on display. This is a theater. This is a show. We all are extras or stars, main players or small players, but we're all participating. The question is how mindful you are of your participation. Are you feeding someone else's story, or are you feeding your own? I am just as guilty of it as anyone else. Get on my phone, get on Twitter. Oh my God, did you see all this stuff that's going on today? Did you see all the news that came out today? I'm like, here's a good one. Oh, look, they really, there was a Greenpeace activist, not activist, geoengineer, big guy, he proceeded to totally call, I can't even get it out of my mouth. Climate change is a hoax, he said. We need to be putting more carbon up so that the earth. I thought that was fascinating. So I'm like, oh, look at that. Go figure. He basically pointed out that it's about money making. It's about follow the money trail. It's so that they can tax you more money for carbon tax, for, offset the carbon. Where does money come into play with offsetting carbon? Like, that to me just makes no sense anyway. Hey, listen, the earth has been around a lot longer than us. They have threatened everything over the years about being out of oil and out of water and nuclear disasters. And guess what? All of it is orchestrated to keep us in fear. It's historically proven. They need us to be weak and dependent upon them. So when we get distracted, like I just did, upon these other stories, how much is left for our own story? How much is really left for you enjoying and living your life? Because essentially we feed, and people wonder why they're so exhausted. You spent so much time dopamining, false senses of like all these chemical things that go on when you click like, or you get likes, or like this right here, it's all synthetic. The black scrying mirror with the cell phones, future telling, movies. Again, which came first, the chicken or the egg? You hear the story, you watch the movie, you've fed it all through all 5 of your senses. And because it's so unconscious most of the time, like you really just zone out when you go to watch. You know how many people say, oh, I just want to zone out on the couch and watch a movie. But in reality, you're not zoning out because your body is always listening. And you get little hits and triggers and all this other stuff. Some of it can be, I heard this term today, glimmers which is the opposite of a trigger. It's like that, ooh, that felt good. That makes me feel good about, it's kind of like a sense of security and reinforcing my happy self. But when we watch these movies, we're taking in all this information. We're being fed. Again, this is what I was talking about, gluttony. We're consuming and then being consumed at the same time. I want you to just consider this one for a minute. Like, if anybody out there has ever considered how we are under maritime admiralty law and how they basically introduced the Social Security numbers in the early 1900s with birth certificates, so that your parents they rent you, they signed under duress, uninformed, not full consent to the state, and then the birth certificate was drawn up. Now I'm looking into this even deeper right now, personally. Why? Because it's about time. And because so much of this world we don't even realize. You know what the stock market is? Think about back in, like, we are like lost corpse at sea, first off. And when you go into the system and you start doing the research, the stock market, that's where they traded cattle, right? Think about this. Stockyards, markets. They trade cattle. They trade slaves. We are enslaved to the system, and we are the chattel. We're the ones being traded, and they make money off of us, off of the Social Security numbers, off of our life fully. And here we are paying to live on a planet. Doesn't make sense. How did we get duped into the system? Oh, it goes back to the education system, of course, because when the government said, we'll step in, or actually Rockefeller, we'll step in and we'll take care of educating your kids. Indoctrination, so that they'll be good little slaves as they grow up. And how many generations did they say they needed to be able to enslave a nation? When you really sit with all the influence, deception, whichever terminology you feel most comfortable with, because in essence, influence is realizing, they got one over on me. Deception is assuming you're a victim to the circumstances. And to a certain degree, yeah, we've all been victimized. I mean, hello, every one of us has a trauma that we're trying to work through and resolve. But we weren't properly informed of our God-given rights. We all assume we have a constitution, but even that isn't even being upheld. That we are supposedly a republic, but yet every politician uses this democracy term, which has nothing to do with a republic. Like, the history that we've been taught has been skewed. And for good reason, because in our ignorance, we have forfeited our own rights. That literally, the soles of our feet gave way to the souls of these beings being held prisoner. So I've heard some people say prison planet. I wouldn't call it that. Prison system, yes, because the whole school system and the prison system are lock, stock, and barrel. Keep them in line. We just want good little workers to go along and get along. And the irony is in how we are so easily duped to fight it out against each other. And I'm just sitting here going, they point a finger and then watch how everybody does their bidding, does all their dirty work. Like, this is sick. Again, that all fighting to survive, survival mode, keeps people from living their authentic, true, God-given right life. And there's so much bitterness, anger, resentment. Most people don't realize they think it's out towards somebody else, but it really is to ourselves. And I say that because that's what I had to conclude in my own search for meaning, purpose, understanding, realization, recognition, like, wow, I'm meant for more than this. I'm not here to be a slave to any system. We are the royalty, but yet we've been turned into the slaves to I don't know what to call it at this point. They don't want you to believe the devil exists. I really don't like to think in those terms, but more and more I'm starting to go, wow, I guess Satan is really at the head of this whole ship, literally trying to take us all down. And again, maritime admiralty law is all about the law of commerce, the law of water. Even the word law is land, air, water. The highest law is God's law. And the question I have for anybody out there that's interested in it is, are you ready to step up and reclaim yourself? I had an interview last week with an organization discussing all of this. And because I've been in the wellness industry for so long, and, you know, addiction and all that, and also knowing my military background as well, I said, you know, what's really sad is that it takes a lot of courage to step outside of your comfort zone, because everybody knows the system they're in. But do you know, when you reclaim yourself, your securities, your sovereignty, you put yourself into an express trust, do you notice that whenever they want to make a big whoop-de-doo and get the public really upset, they start talking about people not reporting their IRS taxes and all this stuff? Why? Because we've been indoctrinated that, oh, you have to pay your taxes like those are the big people, those are the powerful people. It's a voluntary system that none of us realized. We got duped into adding to their pot. They're already making money off of us, so let's give them more. There's no rationale in any of the system other than it's legalese, and it is another language for many, myself included, because I realize I'm going to have to learn a new life. And the only way to reclaim your life is to know these details, to know that your parents were under duress, that at the age of 18 you were supposed to reclaim your status, but out of ignorance and no awareness, because nobody taught us this stuff. Let me just say this. So all of those so-called rich versus, you know, people talk about the rich. Oh my gosh, the billionaires, the elites, the blah, blah, blah. They set their families up this way. They know what the hell they're doing. They just don't tell you about it. So if you're thinking that they're evading taxes, no, they're not doing it. They're playing by the rule book that they know that they don't clue you into, because they set their families up. They're untouchable. They're in private trusts. They don't want the average person to know this stuff because they're making billions off of us. And I'm not speaking to any particular class or anything. This is really just, if you were already set up in a family that was part of these bloodlines that have dominated for so long, it would be second nature to you. You wouldn't even think anything different of it. And believe it or not, it's in every country. It's not just in the US. When you have a tax code, Social Security in the US, in Europe, when I lived in Italy, you had to have a permission to work. Anytime you need to ask for permission, you know you're in the system. They gave me a codice fiscale, which is also translated to fiscal code. Again, it's commerce. It's land, it's law of the water. We're uninformed. And as I was sharing that, when I was having these conversations and asking the questions, because there's a lot of unknowns when you haven't lived in that space. People worry about, well, what about, you know, like, how do I operate and how do I move around? Well, believe it or not, you have more rights because you start to realize you're right. And I also pointed out why most people won't do this. Because most people aren't right with themselves. And until you heal the human and all those pains, this will not only look daunting, but scary AF. Why? Because that means you got to trust yourself to make the right choices. And if you in your life feel like you've made a lot of mistakes and you're traumatized, making the right choices in some ways like this, stepping out of the known into the unknown, is like, I don't know that I can do that. So I myself am going to do this and have shared this with a couple of friends. I said, you know, sometimes you have to step up and do it so that you can give other people permission, not from the system, but an internal like, oh, that's how I do it. If they can do it, I can do it. But the more people that step out of the system and into their sovereignty and reclaim their status, we're going to change the world. Because all these unelected organizations trying to run over our lives and tell us what we should or shouldn't do, and pulling the wool over our eyes regarding whether it's the climate or the weather modification stuff, and all that stuff is distractions in itself. Like, I mean, you can only go so far down the rabbit hole before you're like, ugh, how do I get out and back into my life? Because the more we're digging for answers, that's not solving anything in the sense of how do I continue to live and prosper in my life. I came here to thrive. I did not come here to survive and play these little games of tit for tat and, ooh, I got to pay my taxes, and, ooh, I don't want to miss my bill deadlines. Like you can reclaim every little tax that you've paid directly. You can get your taxes all given back to you. When I was first in the military, I worked with a guy. He said that I get my taxes, my Social Security, my Medicare, all of it back at the end of the year. He goes, I don't pay into any of that. And he told me that it was because of the system, the getting out of the maritime admiral, and he was active duty. I still, to this day, don't understand all the details there, but knowing what I know now, I'm like, oh. And because not many people have talked about this until these past several years. Like, I was already diving into this in 2019 when they were trying to put these smart meters and towers up and everything, because people were signing petitions. Because it's a tacit agreement. And technically, you don't have to have any of that on your property. You can actually write a letter with the right documentation and the languaging. It's always about the languaging. That's how they trip you up. Proper languaging, you can also charge them rent, and you can pick your price. If you do not remove this from my property, but first you got to get the land in the right trust too. See, there's more to this, but most people don't understand a mortgage. We were never supposed to have mortgages in our homes, but anyway, especially banks are not supposed to be able to repossess your home. Whole nother conversation around that. But you can end up learning that you can dissolve all your debt too, because you're not here to live in debt. That was really not the full purpose of this video anyway, but the main reason I wanted to come on here is just to remind you, we got a lot of tools, and we are humans. And what we do is we repeat experiences until we've learned the lesson. And I was sharing earlier with somebody, I said, you know, we will make mistakes, but they're just choices. Missed takes. Okay, take 2, take 3, take 4. Just like a movie, take 2. Choose again. You never fail. You just keep choosing. You continue. So when the world feels like, oh my gosh, all this stuff is going on outside of me, what's really going on within you that you're distracting yourself by focusing outside? Because what I feel is that they really do harvest our energy. by our attention, that they can actually, because the ether in the air and because you have frequency, energy, vibration, you are emitting all the time. You are an antenna. What strikes a chord within you? You can reharmonize yourself and heal yourself. Dr. Royal Raymond Rife, back in the early 20s, 1920s, was able to create what they call a magnoscope. It was about 200 pounds, couple feet, and was able to see, although they like to use the same languaging, right? So they like to still use the languaging of bacteria and viruses, which the germ theory has already been debunked. It's all a hoax that way anyway. Really, health is all about frequency. It's all about light, vibration. Light is a set tone of vibration. And so he was able to recognize this, and he created the Rife machine. It's a light tube, and he was healing the big C, I won't even say it. He made 13 of these. And everyone was healed. Now imagine, with that type of technology, if they know how to heal you, they also know how to keep you sick. That's the world we're in. This is where it's about getting smarter. Smarter than the system, smarter than the whole agenda. Reclaiming ourselves means also taking personal responsibility and accountability for our health, our wealth, our mindset, our belief systems, our lifestyles. We need to stop outsourcing and giving permission to others to take care of us. That's the biggest key to all of this. Whether it's to heal you emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually, or it is to really take charge and reclaim your life. In general, it's all of it. The way you do anything is the way you do everything. So if you truly want to be successful in whatever way you choose to be, or want you visually see, what is your biggest dream, you actually have to own yourself and where you're at and every choice you've made. You can't change unless you're aware of where you're at. And if you're not happy where you're at, it's just a matter of changing the choices you're making to get to where you want to go. But we have to be accountable. No blame, no shame, no finger pointing. Just, wow, I've learned a lot in this life. I'm here because of the choices I made. And guess what? That in itself is empowering you. That the moment you step up and you own it, and it no longer owns you, now you're ahead of it. Now you become the star of your own show, and you realize, wow, I've been an extra in a huge, huge clown world. I hope you're enjoying the show. It is really one hell of a shit show, though. I have to pinch myself. Am I really? What is going on in the world? My late night smoothie. I just realized I've had so many experiences. There's no more time to waste. You know, I spent a life repeating lessons, repeating experiences, and going, wow. And you know, I know some of my lessons were not holding out for somebody who, and that was an old pattern, was like people saying they would do something and not following through. and me not believing their actions, but listening to the words and holding on for them to, do the right thing. Like, I wanted to believe they could do it, but they themselves didn't even know their limitations. Whether they genuinely meant and wanted to follow through, or they deliberately didn't intend to, it didn't matter. It's seeing the patterns and noticing when the audio and the video are out of sync, or that, their words and their actions are like not matching. Truth is in front of your face. The question is whether or not you're going to accept it, or your mind's going to overtake and go, oh, no, it's okay. Here's what happens. This is part of my lesson. The golden rule, there was something I wrote down the other day specifically about the golden rule. We say we do unto others as we would want done unto ourselves. It's actually that we do unto ourselves. Meaning, when I was holding out, like I said, for someone to follow through, I held out because I would want someone to do that for me. Because I would want to follow through. Because I hold myself to a certain standard. So if I say I'm going to do something, it's my nature to follow through. It's why a lot of people come to me, because they know they can rely on me. Because when I say I'll do something, I do it. And there's always exceptions to that. I'm sure I've dropped the ball a couple times. But in all honesty, who are we serving when we lie to ourselves about what we're seeing and what we're hearing, what we're sensing, something's off? How many times, I know for myself, relationships, oh, I really like this guy, and then they turned out to be, there were all sorts of red flags. We've all been there. We've all done it. How many red flags is it going to take for you to go, one was enough? I'm not trying to collect anything. I'm certainly not in the business of repeating lessons anymore. So when I see it and I spot it, I acknowledge it and I call it out in the most direct way as I can, but I will not exhaust myself to explain what it is I see sometimes. So for my recent experience in the dating world, I saw some patterns and I was really kind of sad, and I know why I was angry and upset. I was like, I really was really excited to, this is my inner child. My inner child was like, I was excited because I met someone and we had fun and we connected, it seemed. And then there were little red flags were popping up here and there and there and there. I'm like, not another one. Universe, we're done with this. Now you need to just send me the ones that they give me the glimmers, not the triggers. Because we want to connect. It's our human nature, because life is a relationship. We cannot experience ourselves alone. It's through another. When someone says, oh, I can be fine, I can be single, and I don't need any relationships, I'm good. Hi, beautiful Shakti. So good to see you. I am doing fabulous. When someone claims, I can stay single, I don't need to be in a relationship, I'm good by myself. Translation: I don't want to have to work. I don't want to do the work, whether it's on myself or or with the other person. We do ourselves a disservice when we're not willing to look deeper, to evolve and grow. The only one who really suffers is us. So you could try to be the hermit, hiding out in a cave, meditating, whatever, there's crazy people. I don't know. This is a human existence, and I know I came here to have human experiences, and I own that. The good and the bad, and it's all beautiful. I go high so I can go low. That's how life is. Life shows you duality, shows you the polarity, that the deeper you dive in, the higher you will rise. The high that you get will also be the equal low that you experience eventually. Because life is cycles. you know, but it's, you can recognize that, you can celebrate it. But in the relationship department, it's how we learn we're relating to ourselves. So people show up to you to remind you of you, to show you you. We're here for one another to show each other ourselves. How cool is that? And sometimes you don't want to see your shit. It's easier to say it's someone else's, but yeah, it's yours. It's clever. It's a cosmic giggle. It's the divine comedy. How fun is that? How blessed are we that we can recognize ourselves all around us? But they're varied experiences. So what you see outside of you, you're like, oh, but that's not me. And the more you deny it, the more it will show up to you. This is the cleverness of the universe at play. Literally, it's all theater. It's a play. Do you understand what play was always about? When we were kids, we were always acting something out. Even as children, as naive as it may seem, children know this is all a show. It's all a play. My inner child remembers this. This is something I never forgot. I feel so blessed. It's why I can look at a child and see. I see when you're being a little bit manipulative. Or maybe you're not getting your needs met and that's your way to communicate. I see that. Like I see that you're not being seen, but they see that I see them. And so sometimes it's really in an endearing way when I see these children with their parents and they cling to their parent and I see them acting out, but I understand the pattern because I'm not the parent. It's easier to see things from the outside. No, you know, we can't see our blind spots. We can't see our patterns sometimes because we're so deep in them. So when a child is like clinging to the parent, trying to get their attention, acting out whatever it is, which is essentially they need their full undivided attention, but they're not getting it, and the parent just is in that pattern. And I see them see me, see them, and they're just like, oh, they're not always that used to seeing being seen. So in those moments, to me, that's like me recapturing my child, my inner child, that when I see another younger version of myself, I see that whatever's going on around me, it's all me. Wow. What a powerful, powerful thought and really realization. And that's just what popped up because like I said, I was listening earlier. I said that I was listening to Julia's video earlier. And I know, you know, language lessons of the heart and all these different modalities, like tools. I teach Kundalini yoga. I teach breath work, meditation. I can talk you through all sorts of stuff. And like I talk to some of my girlfriends sometimes, we have all these tools. We know this stuff. But every once in a while, we get caught off guard and we forget about them. But as we need to be reminded, and I remind everyone out there, it's okay if you forget, because it's practice that makes progress. So the more you get triggered, the more you get caught off guard, it's like, oh, remember your tools. It's like my girlfriend the other day, she said something and we were bantering back about some different things. And I said, honey, journal. It's very cathartic because the minute you get it out of your body, journaling has been my biggest, most powerful way of getting to know myself, clearing a bunch of mental garbage, putting it down on paper. And in fact, what really stinks is I've lost a lot of journals. Some really powerful journals too, if I might say so. And really, those journals were like all how I felt about someone in the moment, that I was so upset and And I wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote until I was exhausted. I cried, you know, like one specific incident that I'm thinking of. I cried for 3 days. I just completely cleansed it out in a weekend of just journaling and writing and being angry, and just to the point where I was like, the hell am I doing? I'm revealing to myself how much I put a priority or put a person on a pedestal and expected more. But see, that's the problem. The biggest breakdown of relationships are the unexpressed expectations. The people don't actually say, this is what I expect of you. They don't enter into relationships and saying, here's what I'm willing and offer. I'm willing to offer this union, this friendship, this intimate relation, whatever it is you enter into, you should be conscious about it. You should reveal, I come in to let you know that I don't need you, but I would like you to complement my life, and I want to uplift you and bring you higher. And vice versa. Like what I look for in a relationship is a reciprocity. Like, to me, if there's not this ebb and flow and this perfect divine movement, now I say perfect is, this interplay of energies that says we're here for each other. This isn't a competition, it's a collaboration. Because that's what relationships should be. We're not here to compete with one another. They want us fighting amongst each other because that makes us weak and dependent on them. Until we're right with ourselves, we're not going to be able to get right with others. Relationships will still have their issues, but it's all on us. It's all on us. So whatever is going on in the world, it is all us. The crazy state of the clown world that you see out there, that you're like, why, what am I, what, this makes no sense. Why? Because in a lot of ways, we haven't held ourselves accountable or personally responsible. So why would we expect the rest of the world to be held accountable and responsible? Just in a general saying of that. That at what point did we somehow just give away the carte blanche about what gets sprayed in the atmosphere, what gets sprayed on our land, what goes in our water? Like, we're getting bombarded by poisons and toxic chemicals left and right. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't recall agreeing upon that. And that's the kind of thing that, again, until we claim our sovereignty, our true power, because we are more powerful together, that stuff will continue, and they will do whatever they want because nobody's actually held them accountable. But that's up to us to hold ourselves first. One by one, we unite when we heal ourselves to the point where we recognize where it's not about us versus them, that we are them. This is not a fight for equality, not equity. This is our human right to live, our right to happiness, unbridled. You can go on and on and on. Language, it's all about languaging. Because the spell casts, oh, they did a number on us, didn't they? Mm-hmm. Blueberries, strawberries, cherries, some pitaya, and a whole lot of love. I'll wash it down with some water afterward. Truly, where I'm at in my life right now, I'm ready to travel again. I'm ready to beautify my life again more. that when I am immersed in travel, that's when I have the best experiences. That's when I learn the best about myself, and I attract some of the most amazing experience, the most amazing magical experiences. Like, travel is my magic. And come October, on the road again, luxury villa in Tuscany. So I need some rest. I know, right? You were on my mind earlier too. I wanted to do a video earlier, but then I said, I really want to go to the beach. I was going to do a video yesterday. It just wasn't feeling the right timing. It has been I've been very introspective lately, and what I was sharing earlier is that I am looking into the exit, the matrix, let's say, the maritime admiralty law, that each and every person who has a fiscal code or a social security number has been enslaved into the chattel, traded on the stock market, just like cattle and slaves. The more of us that actually start stepping up and doing this, the bigger change is going to be affected. But first, again, it goes right back to being good with yourself, being right with yourself, reclaiming your confidence, trust in yourself. The irony is it really is about putting yourself into a trust, a foreign trust. Anyone who wonders why the rich make money and they all this stuff, it's because they know the system. This isn't us versus them. It's just that they know what we didn't know. Now it's time to reclaim it and apply it. So this is where we're at in the world, and we'll see what unfolds. But if anything, I hope you have an amazing rest of your evening. Thank you for joining. I think the best part of this video is the very beginning. I'll be watching it later. I can't even speak right now. I'm tired. I was at the beach. It was a beautiful sunny day. And I'll be posting a little short video from that tomorrow. So much love from my heart to yours. Get some rest. Do what's best for you. Because really, what we're here for is to be the best versions of ourselves, to thrive, to contribute, to receive and exchange, give and take. And like, life is beautiful when we really are present, because that's the gift. Lots of love. Get sweet dreams. Mwah! Mwah! Mwah. Sharing is caring. Smash the like button. And remember, you are one of a kind. Have patience, compassion. Look in the mirror and remind yourself, I love you. Sweet dreams.